What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Iron Fist Season 1, Episode 5, Underleaf, Pluck Lotus. It's the only way I can say that, because it doesn't make sense any other way. But anyway, so, continues pretty much where we left off, after Danny got the little package with the dragon symbol on it. It's like, well, what is that? Well, we come to find out that apparently this is a new type of heroin, new drug on the market, so it's coming through the pier, being controlled by the Hand now because Rand Enterprises owns it. And so a lot of this episode is just more introduction of the Hand. We get to see Claire in this one, so now she's officially pretty much going to be all... This is how they all tie together. This is going to be the one person who's like, hey, we need 4 heroes that aren't necessarily superheroes, but are willing to defend the city of New York, because this is their city. State, whatever. I know just the people, and so she's going to be the one that brings them all together because she knows all 4 of them now. So, some of the scenes that stood out to me the most, there were a couple that were really good, in my opinion. One in particular is the scenes with Ward in this one. We see just how truly frustrated he is with his father. We've seen that bits and pieces here and there, but for the most part, it's like he's following his dad's orders. There was the one time he disobeyed, but his dad was like, I'm gonna hit you so hard if you don't listen to me, son, and, popped his back out of place or something. So we saw that he disobeyed once, and his father, shut that down. And so it's like, well, he's just doing everything his dad says. Well, his dad tells him to do what he says. I'm assuming talking about Danny, just talking about the pier, talking about the settlement or whatever. And so he just completely says, no, we're doing what I'm going to do. We're going to do what I want to do for once. I want this company to not take the settlement. I want this company to not admit any fault. I'm going to do it my way. And even there's a moment where Dad texts him, and he just, at the computer and then at the cameras and everywhere. It was kind of funny. But we just get to see a different side of him. And on top of that, we see he really is kind of just dealing with it right now. I don't think we really knew just how deep this frustration with his father was. But in this one we see, we've already seen him popping some sort of pills before this. But then all of a sudden he's looking at that drug packet that Danny gave him. He's like, you know what? Why not? And then at the end he's like completely just completely high. He has no idea what's going on around him. And that scene was pretty funny to watch. Just this guy who's been always so just upstanding, and he never lets anything get to him. He's always been so just frustrated, but he's always seemed so dignified in everything he does. All of a sudden, just oh, you stood by me, sleeping like a little baby on Joy's arm. So that all of this stuff with him, I did really like in this episode. I think they are handling these characters really well, in that we still don't really know who's a bad guy, who's a good guy, who's just in between. I like how they're doing that. They're keeping me guessing on who I should really root for and who I should be like, screw him. The other scene that I think really worked out really well is the scene with Claire at first. When we first see her, she's working with Colleen, and then in walks Danny, and he wants to talk to Colleen about going to this pier. At first it actually worked really well. Seeing them all together, talking, and that, it did kind of work. But then it got into the romance part of it, and I'm not buying it. I'm sorry, I know I talk about relationships poorly a lot on other channel or other reviews of other shows. I don't really like relationships on TV shows. Most of them are not handled well. There are a few that are, and those I do enjoy. But for the most part, TV show relationships are crap. If it's, especially if it's a superhero show, most of the time they handle it really poorly. This one, I thought it was going to be about Danny and Joy, and then them rekindling that sort of close friendship they had when they were younger, possibly becoming a romance now. I thought we were kind of going to go into that. But now all of a sudden it's like he brings this takeout for her, and she's like, is this a date? And he's like, well, no, unless you want it to be, and it's all awkward. And then when they start talking again with Claire, it's fine, but then at the end, she's just laughing awkwardly, No, look. It was just weird and awkward. I'm just like, what is this? And then they get to the pier together, and they just keep talking. It's like they're supposed to be completely quiet. They're supposed to be infiltrating the pier, and all of a sudden they stop in this dark place and just start talking to each other about stuff. And then they're sneaking through again, and they stop in a dark place and they're talking again. First of all, sneaking, so should be completely quiet because you're ninjas, and too much talking, just way too much. Like conversations that it feels like they had 2 seconds ago. All of a sudden they're talking about it like they just had it 5 minutes ago, or longer than that, more like 20 minutes ago. Like, I'm sorry about that. What I said before. It's like, didn't you just say that like a minute ago? Why are you talking about it like you said like 5 hours ago when you had some conversation back then? Why are you talking about it like that? The conversation itself just didn't feel right. It didn't feel suited to the situation they were in. It wasn't like they were talking strategy or anything like that. It wasn't like they were talking about, okay, you got a guy off to your right, we got 3 guys over there, so we're going to wait for them to do their next rounds. No, it was like, I don't really know how to do this. Do what? Talking? Yeah, I don't really understand social cues or anything like that, so I'm sorry if I misread your takeout thing earlier. Oh, it's okay. And I'm just like, what is this? They're in the middle of a mission. Why does this matter? And I'm just like, where is this coming from? Like, I haven't seen this at all during this show so far. 5th episode, out of nowhere. Let's just do this kind of awkward but kind of romantic dialogue. Because why not? It doesn't work. And on top of that, I really don't buy this sort of... I mean, he said that he took a vow of, like... What's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. But it's the virgin vow is probably the best word for it. But it's that one where, you pledge to not focus on earthly things. It's the monk thing. Catholic priests do it too. I don't know what it's called, and I'm too lazy to go look it up. But they're talking about that just kind of out of nowhere. Like, he's talking about the monastery and what happened there and all the things, and all of a sudden he just brings that up. And she's just like, oh, okay. And she looks really disappointed. I'm like, wait, she's disappointed? I don't know. It was really weird. That part of it was really weird. The fight scene was good at times and then was not good at times. Like, it's very weird. I talked about the fight scene in the last episode, how that it didn't really work for me. It was different. It wasn't quite what I was expecting. And I was like, okay, so maybe it's just a growing thing. Like, as I start to watch more of these fights, I'll start to get more used to it. Watching this one didn't work for me. And I'm just like, it's not growing on me. There's still parts of it that are cool. Whenever he kicks the leg out the table and then all of a sudden ends up next to the leg so he can use that to protect himself, it's like he knows what he's doing there. He does that on purpose. It's the little things like that. And I'm like, oh, that was pretty cool. But then all of a sudden it's like the guy's on the ground and he's just like picking his head up. And the way he raises his leg to kick him, it was so forced and dramatic the way he did it. It didn't look at all like a fight. It didn't look like something you'd see in a realistic fight. It looked like something out of like we need to make sure they know that he is raising his leg up and kicking him in the face. So let's do it very, very emphasized. Hey! I'm just like, what is this? Like, why do some of your fight scenes look great and then other your fight scenes look terrible? This is the same. It's Marvel Netflix. This is the same type of shows that Daredevil. Their fights were always good. I know this is a different type of fight. You're doing more martial arts based than, realistic gritty fighting. But still, that type of thing doesn't belong in this show. Watching the last episode, none of the stuff in there was like over the top, emphasized like, oh, hiya, hey, hiya. There are slow movements at times, and that's fine. Because martial arts at times is slow at the beginning and then builds up into it. He was saying that a few episodes ago. But this is like you're over-dramatizing it to make it look different. It's almost like you're trying to make it look different. And in doing that, it makes it look bad. I get you want to go for a different style. That's fine, but don't make it look bad. I don't even know how else to describe it. It just looks bad. And it's kind of frustrating because I don't want to see that. I saw the previews. The previews looked pretty good when the fight scenes were on. I don't want it to be like, oh, we just picked out the best moments of the fight scenes, but the rest of the fight scenes are just eh. I don't want that to happen. That would be very disappointing. So, going forward, hopefully it gets better, but right now, kind of disappointed. The last thing to talk about, which is not really a good or a bad thing, but it is the hand and all of that stuff. I was kind of, as I'm watching it, as they're bringing it up, I'm thinking to myself, the hand really is like a dangerous organization. And it seems like something that, more like the Defenders, all of them, should work together to stop them, instead of just one guy having to take them on. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but personally that's exactly what I was thinking when we were doing this. I'm thinking, I want to see them all go up against the hand, and yet Danny's the one that's been tasked with destroying the hand. So I'm just like, for the Defenders, who's going to be your main villain that's going to be bigger than the hand, in New York? So I don't know where that's going, but I personally just, I don't know. Maybe he won't destroy them completely. Maybe he'll take most of them out or take out Madame Gao. I hope not, because she's so scary for being old and little pale and like small looking. No, I mean at the end, that is one scene that stood out to me, and I'm just like, I'm glad she's back because she's talking to this guy. The one line that she had where he's just like, he punched through, or he broke through the steel doors with his bare hands. She's like, are you sure it wasn't his fist? I'm like, what's the difference? Like, you just wanted to say that so he could be like, oh, Iron Fist, it's clever. It's still his hand. A fist is still a hand. But anyway, so after she's talking to this henchman that screwed up and let him go and let the dealer go, she just like, kneel. And so he kneels, and like she goes behind him and takes her little walking cane, takes the sword out of it and hands the scabbard to somebody behind her, and she just straight through the back of his head, through his mouth. I'm like, see, that is a good epic death. I talked about the guy from the last episode, how they just kind of cut slightly into his head. We didn't really get to see anything. It was just like, and that was it. This is like, you get to see the sword sticking out of his mouth and the blood's dripping down it. That's an epic death. That's something that you can do, and I'd prefer you do that. It's not like they just showed her doing that and then showed from a distance. You see like the sword through his mouth from a distance. No, you get to see it up close, and it's just like, oh. So I don't know, personal preference. But anyway, long story short, it's still a good show so far. It's just the problems are starting to multiply. The problems are starting to pick up, and I'm starting to notice them a lot more. And that's not something that I did with the other shows. That's not something I was like, oh yeah, I had a problem with this and I had a problem with that. This hasn't happened before in a Marvel show. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was slow at the beginning, but it wasn't bad. It was still good. There weren't really problems that I could pick out of it. This is like, there are some problems that I'm having with this. Some of the humor isn't right. The romance doesn't feel right. Some of the fighting's off. I don't know why it is this way. I don't know if it's just they're going for a different type of style and I'm not seeing it yet, or if there was some sort of writing change, or I don't know. I don't know what it is. But something's wrong, and I hope it gets fixed before the end of the season. I hope by the end of it I'm just looking back and thinking, okay, so there were a few mistakes at the beginning, but I managed to overlook that because at the end it was awesome. Fingers crossed. But anyway, I'm still going to enjoy it. I'm still going to watch it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Iron Fist reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.